This seems like a pretty good place to restart our part 2 of this GC8 STI restoration. There's a part 1 I already uploaded a few months ago to YouTube. If you want to check it out, you can check out the other videos on my channel. Part 1 just sort of went over the beginning of this project and a couple of project goals I had. This is getting a little bit further into it now. I probably should have made a video in between the two, but it's hard to even take time to make a video even of low quality like this one. So here we are. The car is pretty much ready to go to paint now. It's been a few months of work, just an hour or so on the weekend as time allows. This right now is pretty torn down. As you can see, you get into the nitty-gritty of what it takes to take a car apart properly for a paint job. We've got the hood scoop here. I'm sorry, the roof scoop. There's a grommet that I had to find for the middle of it. I've got the edges bead blasted down a bit. Paint can deal with the rest. I'm not a paint expert, so I just took stuff down as far as I could and tried to prep it to the point where I wasn't going to damage anything. This is the hood scoop. It's a version 1 hood scoop. They're super hard to find now. I tried to find a replacement because it's got this hardware that slides in, and these little tracks are very fragile and they break. So what happens is this is metal hardware. You slide it in and a nut goes on from the other side, from underneath the hood, under here, and everything gets corroded. You turn the nut to take it off and the hardware turns and cracks the thing. So anyway, this is fixed up pretty well, and I got new hardware for it, so when it goes back together it won't be rusty. And there's also an insert that goes underneath this. You can find the second generation of GC8 hood scoop no problem, but the first one is super hard to find. I've got some door handles. These ended up being the biggest pain of everything I've done on this car to get out. The fronts are even harder. I haven't quite got to that point yet. I generally don't like doing interior work, but you know, here we are. The fronts have a lock core on them, and there's like a slide fork spring retention thing that holds it in, but you can't quite reach it. So I need to figure that one out. Fog lamp covers, pretty straightforward. These have little thumb screws on them that I've been having trouble finding. They're discontinued to find the originals, but a lot of the computer, like a desktop computer case, they use very similar ones, so I'm going to try to match it up somehow. Those little panels are for under the lights, under the tail lights. Spoiler, there's a little gasket kit under the spoiler for each side. And I have that too, so when it gets put back on, it can get sealed up nicely. These are the bumper covers. I took out the reinforcements and blasted them and resprayed them. They're actually gray from the factory, so they're not black. We've got new hardware to hold the frames to the covers. I'm not exactly sure the best way to deliver this car to paint. I think I'm going to take all the parts on a little trailer and then take the car after, and then get some moving blankets for when they're done with paint and put them back on myself, because I want to do it a certain way. And I want to make sure I use all the clips that I have here and all this stuff. So I'm going to try to be practical about how they get it, so it's not a pain in the butt for them, but also make it so I can finish the car properly. And also, before it goes to paint, I have to like just wash it because there's dirt. I mean, I'm sure they'll be able to do a lot of it, but so the engine's done. That was a big update since the last time. I think I was taking it apart in the last video. I've got some nice details. I found a sticker on eBay. It's actually not the right one for Subaru nerds. This one should just say tuned by STI. Not handcrafted, but you can do what you can. Intercooler's cleaned up, manifolds repowder coated. Everything has been cleaned in here. New battery tie down. And this has been a significant amount of work actually. I bead blasted the strut tower bar. I'll send a gallery link to the gallery as it came. That's the proper sticker. It's a new one. Fuji Heavy Industry sticker. So this is looking good. Refinished the radiator, I took it all apart, new stickers on there. I didn't end up replacing the hoses here for the power steering cooler. They're kind of hard over time. But you have to buy a whole new cooler kit. I'm not quite ready to do that, so not for that reason anyway. So I put better hose clamps on them. The spring clamps were weeping. Actually, it was this one that was weeping out before, so it's all cleaned up. Radiator support looks good. So as you can see, side markers are out. These door panels are actually not really connected. I'm just hanging them here so I can put the windows up and down. This is sort of an example of where the pillar trim is. There's like a metal plate and then another layer of trim goes over and attaches here. I think this is going to be the mask line somewhere around here. You can see this is sticky tape for those stupid smoking things they put on these Japanese cars. And do the mask line down here. To maintain this line, obviously you have to take all this trim off. The roof rail trim had to come off. This is like sacrificial one-time hardware on here. So I'd get the hardware for that. That's where the roof scoop was. Again, just has to be cleaned out. Windshield trim has to come out. And these trim clips are embedded in this epoxy. I gotta figure, this is actually just epoxy here. That's not a good example. But you can see up here, like here's a clip. They get really embedded in there, and they're all different. Like one is white and one next to it's yellow. Not sure why. Gotta figure that out. But I got time. Out back, these are trunk vents. I took them off. I'm gonna leave this stuff in for now. I assume they can just pop it off when they do it. Splash guards are out. And yeah, it's looking pretty clean underneath here. It's just, when I push it outside, it needs to be washed. Tail light are out. This is the washer spray tank for the rear wiper. Just took that out of here. Trunk trim. This is a pretty common place to get corrosion on old Japanese cars, actually old cars in general. This had rust on this corner here, right around the back edge. It scalloped out the corner, so I cut a small piece of sheet metal and re-welded a new piece in there, so before paint, so they can paint it. And then the trunk trim goes on it, so it didn't have to be like absolutely perfect looking. Just gets covered up again. Just has to be sealed. So I guess that's about where we're at. I can show you some more parts. Now this car is occupying basically 2 car spaces because all these parts take up so much room. Here's the rear door. These are little felt guides. You can adjust them. I tried to mark where they were. You can get the camera to zoom so I can set everything back up. I'm not exactly sure how this window came out. I just wriggled on it for some time and it finally came out. I hope I can get it all back together. And the front is tricky because way in here, way in the corner is that C-clip, spring clip to get the lock core out. So the handle's like kind of loose, but it's being held in by the spring clip. It's really the last thing I need to do to get this thing going. One last look at the rest of the parts here. These are like the rail and windshield clips. I have 3 types. I need to go back over and figure out what it was. I think I ordered this in a way that made sense. Side skirts, which are not going back on the car, but there are fender liner pieces in there as well. Some new bumper reinforcement pieces. Those are really hard to find now. So I picked up a couple extra. They're like $3. So if you can find them, it's worth grabbing. And one other thing before we adjourn, show you these are for the hood scoop and vent. These are the things that slide into the tracks. You can see there's a bunch of them in here. And these are these special nuts. They're like pretty heavy and they're hollow on the back side. And these hold the little grills on the hood, and they hold the hood scoop on. So that's where we're at. I think the next edition will be putting this thing on the trailer and getting it out of here. Thanks for tuning in.